What's up, Internet? We are back with probably a very controversial chunk of my collection because it is one of the most underappreciated consoles of all time, like even by its creator's standpoint. And I'm not talking about the awesome Sega Saturn. I still think that's a way better console than this thing. But we are, of course, talking about the Wii U. Sequel to the Wii, some people thought it was also just the Wii, so they didn't need one, and Nintendo didn't support it, so it wasn't very good. Now that said, I didn't actually have a lot of Wii U games, even though I think I have most of the ones worth having, so we're going to throw Switch games in there too, because I think between the two I have almost half as many as the previous games, so this is going to be a short one. But I've always found the Wii U to be kind of a peculiar beast, because you can say that the Wii U only had 4 good games, and people generally agree with that. But the funny thing is, no one agrees on what those games are. I think it's also kind of sad because you can cut down that number pretty significantly now because pretty much everything on the Wii U has actually been ported to the Switch, which actually makes me pretty sad. As someone who has a Wii U, I like that more people can play our awesome games, but it means there was no point to any of this. That sucks. But my Wii U I got back in the winter of 2012, 2013. I got it as a gift to myself for getting accepted into college for the second time, where I took journalism so that I could make this channel better. I hope that came through. But yeah, so I got I got a Wii U. I got the big black one that came with Zombie U. It came with a digital copy of Nintendo Land, and then I bought one extra game, and we'll get to that. But we're going to start off with the first game we have, which is Bayonetta 2, with bonus Bayonetta game included. Hell yeah. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I actually have never played Bayonetta 2. As it says, it has Bayonetta included, and the thing is, I had played the ever-living crap out of Bayonetta back on the PS3 to 100% completion. So when this came out, I wanted to see what that was all about, because it was like a version of this game, but with extra content. Like, you could wear Nintendo-themed costumes, so you could dress as Stripper Link, which was really kind of odd, and Stripper Princess Peach, which, to be fair, I can kind of see that. You could also dress as Stripper, like, Samus, and that really kind of annoyed me, because Samus and sexuality are, like, two antithetical things. That was kind of the whole point of her design. And that bugged me. But anyway, I got to, like, the first level, like, where you get to the proper town where the game takes place, and then I just stopped because I'd already played through Bayonetta so much I didn't want to play through anymore, and I just never got to playing Bayonetta 2. But I will someday. And now you can get it on the Switch, so there's also that, I guess. Yeah, anyway, Bayonetta 2. I can't actually talk too much about it, but it is a platformer. It's a platinum sort of cinematic beat-em-up type thing. A lot of people tend to like that. Next we have a game I'm not a big fan of. We have Hyrule Warriors. This is Legend of Zelda meets Dynasty Warriors. And the thing about me is I absolutely hate Dynasty Warriors. They are not my kind of game. This I do not like at all. It starts out kind of on a good note where like the first level has like this rock rendition of the Legend of Zelda theme as like the level theme. That's great. And it does that with a few other classic Zelda songs. Does not do it with the one song that absolutely needed it, the Dark World theme of A Link to the Past. Best Zelda song. Not here. But you are Link running around mowing down tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of dudes, as well as Zelda and Sheik, and for whatever reason they want to rehash the fact that Zelda's Sheik and like make that a big surprise even though it wasn't one. Yeah, that's kind of a problem I have with this game, is a lot of this just feels like callbacks to things from other games. Like, at one point I remember there was like this flying creature that you had to go murder at one point. It's like, okay, I'll take a bow and I'll shoot it out of the sky. No. You go to the Great Fairy, you collect little Great Fairy bits, then she summons the moon from Majora's Mask and has it smash into it. And that to me is like the entire like synopsis of what this game is. And to me that is just basically fan wank. Like, for lack of a better term, like this is just... First of all, it's a game type I don't care for, with the skin that I actually do quite like. And there's some stuff about this I do quite like, such as getting different weapons and stuff. That's cool. But it's a game style I don't care for, and it just feels like it's pandering, and it doesn't do a good job of it. Never been a good fan of Hyrule Warriors, but it's still making games apparently, so there's that. Alright, next we have the other game I got with my Wii U. We have New Super Mario Bros. U! I actually kind of like this game a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of the Super Mario Bros. New Super Mario Bros. Games, because they have like this terrible soundtrack. And I've always found this soundtrack to be antithetical to what made one of the best Mario soundtracks ever a thing. We're talking Mario World. Mario World, every level had the same melody, but they reworked it slightly to fit the area, so it felt like you were on this single constant adventure, but every area was a little bit different and had its own rendition of it. And that sort of created an audible continuity between things, while also showing that each area was different. Here they try to do that sort of, in that every single like song has like this weird beat to it that goes like bah bah, and it's like the most annoying thing. And all the characters, like all the enemies and stuff, they'll stop what they're doing and they'll dance to it, and it's like, oh my god, this is bad. Like it's not good sounding music, it's not interesting, and all it is annoys me. That said, Super Mario Bros. U was a pretty fun game. I remember out of the 3 games I got with my Wii U, this was the one I played the most. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of these Mario New U or new Mario Bros. Games, I thought this one was alright. Like I said, out of the 3 Switch games I started with, this was the one I sunk the most time into. And I think it was a decent amount of time spent. And they made like a sequel version of this where you played as Luigi and you played slightly different. And there was different power-ups and stuff. Not a big fan of like the power-ups or the fact that we're sort of leaning heavily into getting just different suits that give you slightly different abilities. Like now we got a squirrel suit, which feels like a really watered down Tanuki suit, or like maybe the super cape. But that said, the baby Yoshis that shoot out bubbles and stuff are fun. The game looks quite nice, and there are a few levels that really did stick out to me. Excuse me, gotta take a sip of my water, my throat is very dry. But yeah, Super Mario Bros. U is probably the best thing I got with my Wii U. Alright, next we have one of the, like I said, the system only had like 4 must-have games. I think this was one of them, and the sad thing is it's actually a port. So for our 4th game, I actually have some guest presenters, so let me bring them in to present this game. So right now, we've got some of our best friends, the good old Monster Hunters. Yeah, in the Legiacris armor, because we got Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. This was the game I played. This is the very first Monster Hunter game I ever played. It's part of the Wii game, as I understand. And I spent an absurd amount of time with this game because Monster Hunter's pretty good, I gotta admit. And if you can't tell, I quite like the cover monster of this game, or at least the original version, the Legiacris, the giant underwater dragon type thing. And that was one of my most memorable sort of moments in like recent, well, recent being a relative term, gaming. Like the first time you end up running into this guy, you end up like swimming around in this water, fighting like all these like little plant-eating dinosaurs and whatever. They don't matter at all. But once you're done your quest, you have to like swim back to land, and like as you do, like just behind you, you can see like these little glowy yellow eyes, and then they get bigger. A little bigger, and then you see the giant killer serpent behind it that's heading at you full speed. Yeah, and he shoots lightning at you. He's kind of mean, and I love him because Legiacris is the best. I absolutely love them, hence why I bought 2 figures of the monster armor, and I got really, I just had a lot of fun with killing him. Now the problem with Monster Hunter, at least this one, and it sort of led me to think a lot of the games in the series have this problem. I've run into a couple. God Eater had this problem, the original version anyway. At some point, you have to rely on other people to help you kill stuff, because if you don't, you just can't kill monsters after a while because they've got too much health and defense. Like even knowing specifically how to kill a monster, you might not necessarily be able to do it just because they will have so much health that they will outlast you over the course of the mission and you will actually time over. That happened to me several times. And I couldn't equip my gear better because I couldn't fight better things. So honestly, I was kind of stuck at that point. Like I had to go online to like get some help to get better gear, and no one wanted to play with me, so I couldn't. So yeah, older Monster Hunter I got some issues with, but Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate is a very special game to me, and I think it's a very special game to these guys, because of course, they're the Legiacris Hunters. They're awesome, and it's a fun game. That said, there are better Monster Hunter games now, but none that also feature my boy the Legiacris, which annoys me, because he's best monster. Alright, next we're going for a game that I waited a very long time for, and honestly, bit of a controversial opinion, I don't think it was really all that good. We have Pikmin 3. Don't get me wrong, I think Pikmin 3 looks great, and it has the Pikmin feel, but I think out of all the Pikmin games that exist, at least let's not talk about the 3DS one or anything, but out of all like the actual Pikmin games that are Pikmin games, this one just is the weakest of the bunch. It's got some interesting ideas. You can play as 3 different playable characters at once. They added 2 new Pikmin types in the awesome flying ones and the kind of lame rock ones, and all the monsters they added were really cool. So what's the problem? Well, one of the things about Pikmin I liked the most was the fact that it was a real-time strategy treasure hunt type of thing. And you need to have interesting treasure in your treasure hunt. In this game, all you have are berries and different fruits. And the thing is, you could keep that pretty interesting. There's some interesting fruits out there. But with the exception of like one giant watermelon that explodes into like a billion different pieces, you're usually just picking up like grapes and strawberries and stuff, and I think that's very boring. The first game had ship parts, which were very cool. The second game was a horrible marketing nightmare that was just trying to pitch different like jars with like different products in them, but still, they were at least different, and seeing them from an alien's perspective at least made it kind of not horrible. It worked. I like the treasures in Pikmin 2. Here it's just fruit, and I think that's really boring. The ability to drop and change between 3 characters never really gets taken anywhere beyond the simple throw a Pikmin to one guy, use that to change to the third guy, done. They really don't use that to any real great effect. And honestly, the one thing I really liked about this game over any other game in the series was, compared to the second game, it lacked the horrible, unkillable water wraith of the second game. Oh wait, no it didn't, that was the final boss. It totally, there's nothing good about this game, is what I'm saying. Out of all the Pikmin games, I think this one is easily the weakest. It might control the best, but that said, I also haven't played the other Pikmin games in ages. But I think by far Pikmin 3 is the weakest out of the lot. And I'm really hoping we get a proper Pikmin 4 that actually has like more treasure hunting that involves, you know, treasures and stuff, because I think that was good. This tried to be sort of in between Pikmin 1 and 2 in terms of some mechanics, and I think it flopped pretty hard, honestly. I was pretty underwhelmed by Pikmin 3, even though I was so excited about it. Alright, we are rounding the halfway mark on our Wii U collection, and we have to next move on to Super Mario 3D World. And like I said, the Wii U only had like 4 good games. And if you start cutting back all the like things that you can now play on different things, including Monster Hunter, well, now you've got like 2. Yay. But Mario 3D World is one of the few games that hasn't really been ported anywhere, which I think is kind of weird, because I think this one deserves it. It has like this weird sort of 3D like areas, but a lot of the areas feel like they're made for 2D. It feels very non-committal to what it's trying to be. It adds the cat suit, which actually completely destroys the game, since you can climb every wall and skip huge amounts of stuff with like your air dive moves. I like this game, but I have to admit it's a little weird trying to understand what they were going for. But there were a lot of really fun secrets. This was of course made around the time of the year of Luigi, so every stage has like a hidden Luigi in it for some reason. I like this game a lot, honestly. Mario 3D World has some issues, certainly, and if you were looking for like a proper 3D Mario, you wouldn't see one until like Odyssey, and I've got some issues with Odyssey, boy I'll tell you. But Mario 3D World, I like this game a fair bit. This was probably my favorite Mario game on the system. It was probably my favorite Mario game since like, I don't know, Sunshine, really. And honestly, this isn't that great a Mario game, but I still quite enjoyed it. It's Mario platforming at its best, plus it's the first time you could play Princess Peach in something that wasn't like super offensive like Super Princess Peach, all the way back since they skinned Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic as Mario 2, and then wrote it into the Mario canon. So you know what, I think this game is actually pretty good. Plus, it has an insane number of bonus levels. Some of it not worth unlocking. If I recall, to unlock like the final stuff, you need to beat every level as every character and collect everything. There's a lot of levels in this, but I quite enjoyed it. It was one of the few games I felt actually made it worthwhile to own a Wii U. That's a pretty good Mario game. Next we go to a game I think every Wii U owner owned. We got Smash on the U. My brother actually got the Game Boy, the 3DS version, because he never had a Wii U. So I got to experience that version, and that version had some stuff I liked a lot better. It had a better adventure mode, I think. Whereas this had Mario Party board game mode. I don't know, it's more Smash. If you're into that, I guess this is okay, but I mean, now there's also the one on the Switch, which is just better in every way, so there is also that. That said, you know, it is what it is. This was the thing that literally made amiibos a thing, for better or worse. And, yeah, that's all that really needs to be said. I mean, it's Smash. You know it or you don't, and if you don't know it, I'm genuinely surprised. But it was something I kind of needed to own if I was going to own a Wii U, and to be fair, it let me make a video day one, and I hadn't played it since, honestly, because I'm not super into Smash. But that said, I think it was still a fun thing to experience. Alright, next we have something that I don't know how I feel. Like, I like this game, but I don't know how I feel about it being remade. We have Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE. And this is, ostensibly, when it was first created anyway, it was going to be FE, Fire Emblem, crossed with Shin Megami Tensei. Now that to me says that it's going to be basically like a top-down top-down strategy RPG with like some monster collecting elements. Like there's going to be a little bit of like Persona in there, but it's going to primarily be like Fire Emblem stuff. Not really. No, this is basically just straight up Persona, but the Personas are now named after Fire Emblem characters, and that's about as far as that ever goes. I found that to be a little bit disappointing, although they do have like class extensions and stuff like in Fire Emblem, but again, there's not much to it. I really do like the style to this game. It's got like this really, really bright sort of aesthetic going on with it, because everything about your character and like their transformation and power-ups is all like designed around being some kind of like presenter through like idol culture and stuff. I'm not sure it necessarily fits, but I do appreciate the color and the style they went with this game. This game was on my Game of the Year list when I finally got a copy, and even though it was many, many years old at that point, I still had to basically pay full price, which sucked. That said, I quite like this game. It's an excellent little RPG, and it's well, by default, it's one of the best on the system for sure. Now you can get it on the Switch. I think the Switch version has extra doodads on it, but this is the original version, which makes me feel like I'm doing a better job of being OG with supporting the Wii U. That said, I'm curious what the new version has, and if you can play this, you should, because it's an interesting game. It's just not really Fire Emblem cross Shin Megami Tensei, which is really what they were going for, you know? It wasn't ideal, but I think it was still an excellent RPG. Alright, let's finish off the Wii U. We only have a few games left. Next we have a game that just got recently remade, and I've got mixed feelings about that. We have the wonderful 101. Fun fact, I've been planning to review this game since I started this channel. I've wanted to review this for a very, very long time. I had a whole thing for it. Might still do it, who knows. But this was a game by Platinum for the Wii U expressly, and this was one of the, once again, 4 games, along with Monster Hunter and Super Mario 3D World, that made owning it a must. Like, this was one of those must-have games, I think. Unfortunately, this kind of goes back to roots a little bit, because it reminds me a little bit of Okami too, in that they can't understand what the hell a circle is. But basically, you play a group of ever-expanding heroes, all donning the band Presto logo over their faces, and combining themselves to create awesome, absurd weapons like giant swords, fists, guns, whips, all sorts of crazy stuff, to try and get around a planet falling apart because of an alien invasion that mysteriously has the same powers as them. Interesting. This game is a lot of fun. It's a great little action game, and it feels almost a little bit like Pikmin, if Pikmin was taken more in an action sort of way, because you have to manage like this huge crowd of like heroes to try and fight off different aliens and like solve puzzles and stuff. And each like hero you can put in the lead all has like a different weapon and like a different fighting style that can handle different various obstacles. It's very, very interesting. I quite like this game a lot. Also, this game just has a ridiculously good theme song, like fun side story from back in the day. But like I said, I got a Wii U to go to college, and the thing is, my college is in town. I had to take like a 40-minute bus ride every morning at like 4 a.m. to get there. It was intolerable. And what got me through it, honestly, was the incredible pump-up jam that is the theme song to this game, the One-Stoppable, Wonderful 100. Oh, it's such a good theme song. This game is awesome. I'm not showing remotely good gameplay here because I have completely forgotten how to play this game, but God, this game is good. Just like one of the most iconic Wii U games, I think. But again, I've got mixed feelings because this is one of those must-have Wii U games that is no longer exclusive to it, and therefore diminishes my need to actually ever own a Wii U, and yet here we are. I'm very torn on the fact that all the best Wii U games are getting ports, because that means, you know, more people can play them, but it also means that my actually owning a Wii U is becoming less and less of value, alas. But Wonderful 101 is a must-have game, and if you can play the remake, I suggest you do. Don't know what quality remake it is, but that said, it's this game, and this game is a little bit janky. Like I said, it can't understand circles, and circles help to tell your team like what sort of things you need at the time, but I think it's still a great game. Bit janky, but great game. Alright, next we move on to Yoshi's Woolly World. This is one of those Yoshi games, and honestly, out of all the Yoshi games I've played, which at this point is 4, Yoshi's Island, Yoshi's Story, This Thing, and Yoshi's Woolly World, or Yoshi's Crafted World, this is the weakest of the lot. I think this game is very, very lazy. That's not to say it's not fun, but the whole thing about this being a knitted world just feels like they decided, oh hey, Kirby's Epic Yarn did well, let's slap Yoshi's face on that now that our like test tube child Kirby has clearly tested the water, found out it wasn't made of acid, it actually is kind of water, and it might work, so let's throw a more recognizable, more likable character on it. I really hate how badly Nintendo treats Kirby. he really is just the test bed of every idea, and if it goes wrong, nothing happens, and if it goes right, everyone else will do it. But Yoshi's Woolly World is sort of more Yoshi's Island, again, without the child-carrying relay race aspect, just throwing yarn balls at stuff. If you liked Yoshi's Island, you'll probably like this, but that said, I still think this is probably the weakest Yoshi's Island style game out there. I haven't played the Game Boy Advance ones or the DS ones. I hear some of those are pretty atrocious, but I don't care for this game. I think Yoshi's Crafted World is better, but again, I don't think that one's great. But it is an okay Yoshi's game, and it does have amiibo support if that matters to you. But yeah, Yoshi's Woolly World, not great. It's charming, but it just, something about it just feels very cynical to me. Like, you know, we clearly saw that this worked, so let's try it again with someone else who might make it more popular, you know? It's an okay game, but honestly, I've played better Yoshi's games, and I've played better games with the sort of handcrafted yarn aesthetic. Alright, next we have, this came with my Wii U, we have Zombie U. And this is the most important version of this game because it's the one with the U on it. After this, they got rid of the U and just called it Zombie and released it on everything. Once again, diminishing the return of actually owning this. This is an interesting game where you play as a survivor of a zombie apocalypse in London, and you have to basically run around trying to kill zombies and not die yourself, all at the behest of some guy known as the Prepper. And your character is ridiculously weak. Your weapon is a cricket bat, because of course we have to make this about as British as possible. It's very weird how much they want to push that. Yes, there are zombies with the stupid hats on. I don't even know the names of them, but yeah. You know, one thing I really do like about this, and I hate a lot about this game, just because first of all it's horror and I'm a wimp, but also there's very little difference between them. There's only like 2 or 3 different zombie types. But there are some things about this I do like. First of all, your character gets like a backstory. My first character was a game designer, which was funny because I was a game designer at the time. It's like, oh, I gotta keep this guy alive. And I almost did. I got to a point where I was about to escape, at least as far as the story was concerned. And then they just behind a blind corner spawned a guy that would instantly explode and kill anyone. And that's when I died. And I was so sad. And I kind of stopped playing after that because my next character was just some student, and it's like, I don't care. Like, I was the game designer. I was literally me in that situation. I had this, and then the game cheaped out on me. But once you die, you can go back and find a zombie version of yourself to kill him, to loot their corpse, which is pretty interesting. But again, there's not a lot of different weapons in this. I think there's a crossbow, there's a cricket bat, and I think there's a gun, and that's your lot. It's pretty weak. I don't know if the newer versions do anything to make it better, but that said, this is the version that existed. This is why this game exists, was to be on the Wii U, to show off the gamepad, really, because you'd go through like your backpack and time wouldn't stop, and all you could do is the screen would zoom in on your character to like looking through their backpack, whereas everything else would be on the gamepad at that point. It tried to use the gamepad relatively well. I'm not sure it succeeded, but it tried. And it's an interesting game. Maybe not a great game, but it's interesting. Alright, and we have one more game. This is the last game on the things you absolutely need to own a Wii U for, and the nice thing is, out of the four, like Mario 3D World, it's one of the few that hasn't been remade yet, although I kind of want this one remade because I could have the entire series on the Switch. We have Xenoblade Chronicles X. This is the game I've played the most on the Wii U, and honestly, I've never actually beaten a Xenoblades game. I sink an absurd amount of time into them, but after a while I just get lost in the world and kind of forget about the story entirely. This is a pretty interesting idea. You play a human waking up from like some kind of cryo sleep. All the humans have sort of drifted off to colonize other planets because bad things happen to where they came from, and suddenly bad things are happening where you are. There's a bit of like an alien subplot going on, and you have to try and like solve all the problems before a certain timer runs down because bad things happen then. I love this game a lot, although that said, out of all the Xenoblade games, it probably has the weakest story. I think this is probably the best mechanically, mainly because you get a giant mech called a Skell, and I love it, but the way they introduce it is so dumb. You walk into town and like you almost get stepped on. One almost steps on you rather, and that's to introduce them. Okay. You then proceed to not be able to get one until about halfway through the game. When you talk to your CO about that, he's just like, wait, you don't have one? We were supposed to give you that like day one. Where were we on this? We should have gotten you one a lot earlier. And I'm like, yeah, you should have. Where the hell's my awesome mech? But then you get it and you can customize it and it like turns into a car and you can upgrade it to fly and stuff. What I find really interesting is once you get your Skell, you can again customize it, but it makes even like the level 1 fights against the things you killed at the beginning of the game relevant again, because going up against them, first of all, is a complete turkey shoot and a giant robot, which is awesome, but also, for whatever reason, everything starts dropping parts to your Skell, and like even the level 1 bugs start dropping like absurdly rare objects for it, and like every time you kill something, you get something that's like even absurdly rarer and like even higher leveled, and it just gets insane. And while you start killing stuff, sometimes it'll like swap to a cockpit view where you see your character like pushing all the levers and like just going to town on it, and it's so empowering. Seriously, I like I said, I've never actually finished a Xenoblade game, even though I absolutely love this series. But this is my favorite one, and I just got lost in trying to upgrade my Skell and wander around just curb stomping things in a giant robot, because you can do that in this game, and that's why this is objectively the best Xenoblade game. Customizable mechs that just curb stomp everything. Oh god, it's so fun. This was definitely on my Game of the Year list the year I got this, and I love this game a lot. This is why you need to own a Wii U. I'm just gonna say it right here. But yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Cross, however you want to call it. I would say this is the definitive Wii U game at this point, because it's this and Mario 3D World, and everything else is now on the Switch. Hooray. That said, my Wii U collection is far from complete, although I only have 4 more games to collect for it as far as I care. Devil's Third, Splatoon, Paper Mario, and Star Fox. Unfortunately, at least 3 of those are like Nintendo first-party games, so they're a pain in the ass to get. That said, if anyone's getting rid of their Wii U stuff, let me know, because I definitely want to get those 4. But that's my Wii U collection. I'm going to clean off this table. We'll get to, of course, the far more successful successor to this thing, the Switch. Alright, so now we're back with the slightly, just ever so small more popular console, the Switch. Kicking it off with an import, the only import I have for the Switch actually, we have Arcade Love plus Pango. Despite what this name actually indicates, it is a compilation of 3 games, not 2. You have Arcade Love, which is a very, very interesting game. It's sort of like a test of your own skills. Basically, it drops you into a WarioWare sort of situation where you have to play a bunch of random arcade challenges to test your overall arcade skills, such as button mashing, destroying random property in a beat 'em up, not getting destroyed by enemies. There was one that was platforming. It's entirely random. There's a whole bunch of them, and it takes multiple playthroughs to get through every one of them. And once you finish the challenge they give you your gamer age based on your overall score and performance. So it's constantly telling you, hey, we got extra content for you, and it's going to be random and you'll never know what it is. And that's pretty exciting. Hits you fast, hits you hard, and then at the end it says, well, you did this well, but I think you can do better, and maybe you'll see some different stuff. Also on this cart is Shooting Love, which is sort of like a FPS, a shmup style sequel. Likewise, it gives you a bunch of randomized shmup themed challenges, such as destroying an enemy before it spawns, sort of like the first boss of Star Soldier, avoiding a bunch of different walls while flying through a corridor in a rotating area, avoiding Danmaku-esque bullets while trying to destroy a boss. Just a ton of crazy stuff, and again, it tells you your gamer age and incentivizes multiple playthroughs because there's always different stuff to find on different playthroughs. Again, that's a pretty fun one as well, especially if you're into shmup type games. And then you got Pango, which I think is like a Sega property. I don't know much about Pango, I didn't care much, but it has those 2 like Arcade Love style games, and I absolutely adore them. In fact, I would say this is probably the best arcade compilation on the Switch. And I mean, I'm saying that knowing full well there's like 12 Pac-Man compilations, and the only one that actually comes close in terms of fun, I think, is maybe the SNK one, but I take umbrage with that because there's no Neo Geo games on it. And I know the SNK company did a lot more than just Neo Geo, but there's already an SNK compilation that contains no Neo Geo games. It's called the SNK Compilation Volume 0, and no one liked it, and this will shock you because it had no Neo Geo games on it. Whereas this one has a bunch of random, fun, crazy, zany challenges that hit you really fast, really hard, and then constantly challenges you to try more different types of events. And it's constantly grading you and helping you improve, and it actually tracks your progress as a gamer too, which is really, really cool. This game totally worth the import. Love it, love it, love it. Next we have a game I actually haven't opened yet. I got this at the beginning of the year during a Boxing Day sale, and you can see my video on that. But we have Astral Chain. This was one of like 4 Wii games I didn't get last year that I really, really wanted to. And I like this game a lot. This should not be in this bundle. It should be in the box of games I got this year. I don't know why I missorted it like this. I see the other game I got with this also missorted, so we'll take a look at that one too. But this looks like a fun, like hacky slashy thing where you get like cyborg monster type demon things to assist you that you're like physically chained to. It seemed like a really, really cool concept. Unfortunately, I have not had the chance to play this just yet. It's still in a shrink wrap. But I'm gonna have to for this video, and I'm very, very excited. Plus, I get bonus Nintendo points because I haven't claimed them on this yet. Although it's probably less than what I would have had I just done it at the start. Not one of my better life choices, I suppose. But still, Astral Chain looks hyper, hyper stylish. It looks very, very fun, fast-paced, and just frantic action at its best. Looking forward to this one for sure, for sure. Alright, this next one, similarly to Monster Hunter, we have a guest star. We've got our boy, the Strike Noir, because we've got ourselves a Striker Pack. This is the Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack. So we'll just equip that to the backpack right there like we do, and that actually holds up surprisingly well. Well done, Strike Noir. You are a very, very old high grade that doesn't do things very well, but you're very compatible with Striker Packs, and I love you. Need the Master Grid though. Anyway, this is a compilation of Gunvolt 1 and 2. Haven't played a lot of 2, but I played the crap out of 1 when it first came out on the 3DS. And it reminds me a lot of Mega Man Zero, and it makes sense, it was made by the same people. It's very, very fun. I find it a little bit inferior to Mega Man in terms of content and combat, because every fight kind of becomes the same. Your character's equipped like a little gun that shoots out needles, and you can tag your opponent with these needles up to 3 times and then shoot lightning at them, and the more needles you have in them, the more lightning damage you do. But that's literally, it's just tag, 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 lightning, tag, 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 lightning. I find that a little bit boring. That said, it's very, very stylish, very, very fun, and it's a absolute must-have if you're a fan of those old Mega Man style games and Mega Man Zero. Again, haven't played the second one. I assume it's very similar. I'm excited for the sequel to all this, which came out a few months ago as well, so I'm gonna have to pick that up at some point. But if I had one complaint with this compilation, as far as I can tell, I'm pretty sure they actually retranslated and relocalized it. Because I remember in the original game you had like a dumb friend that would refer to your character Gunvolt as Jeeves, which I thought was really, really fun and like full of personality. Like, yeah, that's my dumb friend, he calls me this dumb nickname, let's go. In this game, everyone just calls you GV, which feels very, very clinical, very, very sterile, and a little bit boring. So I don't know if they just retranslated it or what, but it's not quite as good. But that said, it does look extra sexy on my Strike Noir, and it does highlight his profile rather well. So thank you, Strike Noir, you've done your job once again. Alright, next we have Code of Princess EX. This was a game I picked up because of 2 reasons. First of all, it was my brother playing with me, what was it, Blade Strangers, which featured some of the characters in here. But I looked it up, and this game was supposed to be like a fan sort of sequel that sort of narrowly skirted the whole copyright thing of Guardian Heroes on the Sega Saturn, which, first of all, I love the Sega Saturn, and second of all, I love Guardian Heroes. That was one of the best beat-em-ups of all time. This one, it's okay, but it's a bit janky. I don't care for the graphical style, for lack of a better term, because you've got like some nice like hand-drawn stuff, and then you've got like these, from what I remember, like sort of awkward 3D models in it sometimes. It just doesn't look very good, but it's a fun beat-em-up. Not the best beat-em-up ever. Not even really what I would say the best sequel that Guardian Heroes could have ever had, but still, it's a lot of fun, and it wasn't super expensive. And when a game's not super expensive, that means I can afford it, which is nice. Alright, next we have a game I made a couple videos about. I'm still hesitant on whether or not I'll continue, but I'll think about it moving forward when I get some time to stream more. We have the Collection of Mana. If you know me, you know that I am a big fan of the Mana series. Secret of Mana is one of my favorite games of all time, and to have a collection of Seiken Densetsu 1, Secret of Mana, and Seiken Densetsu 3 on one cartridge, very, very cool. I got some problems with this though. First of all, Square Enix likes to parade this around that this is like the English introduction to Secret of Mana 2, Seiken Densetsu 3, Trials of Mana, or whatever. That's not true. This game had existed in English for 20 years and was the first translation project fans ever took on the internet. So ignoring that is not exactly great. And, you know, okay, fine, they can't ignore that, or they have to ignore that because it's unofficial or something, and they take pride in their official version, which I think is not necessarily translated as well, but whatever. It has a lot of graphical issues, like just in UI, menu, and other interface designs. Like, stuff just doesn't work in this version that actually worked in the fan translation better. So that's not great. But ignoring all of that with Seiken Densetsu 3 for a minute, and even Seiken Densetsu 2, which honestly they could have gone back and tweaked some things that needed tweaking, but of course they didn't. They went with the original Final Fantasy Adventure for the first Mana iteration on this cartridge, which is not what I would have recommended. See, while it is technically the original Seiken Densetsu game, the biggest issue is it wasn't fun. It really kind of wasn't. It was very archaic for the time. It often feels a little bit like old school Dragon Warrior in that you need to go out, collect X number of keys or whatever to interact with the environment, and if you're missing just one, you gotta travel all the way back to town, buy a full set just to go again. That's not very good. And there's a PSP remake that literally does that too, and that's not a good remake of this either. But you know, there was this fantastic one called The Sword of Mana on the Game Boy Advance that did it perfectly. It got rid of all that obtuseness and just made it a fun, proper, actual feeling sequel to Secret of Mana, even though it comes before it. So why they chose not to include that and specifically went with the older style that really didn't work very well, It baffles me. This collection has a lot of issues, but it's still a fun compilation if you like the mana games, and I do. And it's kind of a must-have in that regard, just because it's the first quote-unquote official English version of Seiken Densetsu 3. That said, it could have been a lot better. Alright, next we got the other game I got at, not Black Friday, Boxing Day. We got Fire Emblem Three Houses. This game I like a fair bit, but I got some issues with it. It tries to combine Fire Emblem with like Persona a little bit. You're a teacher of a school, and on your days off when you're not adventuring, you have to go around talking to your students, finding random stuff they've lost and give it to them, and raise your overall affinity with them, because if you don't, then they won't join your class or they'll just do really, really bad. I'm not sure I like a lot of that. A lot of stuff here, like class evolution and stuff, requires certain prerequisites that don't necessarily make a lot of sense and are semi-randomized, even though they're not. Like, it gives you a percentage on, like, your ability to potentially get your next class, and it's not actually percentage-based. You'll either do it or you won't, and the game just outright lies to you about it. And one other very peculiar thing early on I didn't like was, early on when you're becoming a teacher here, you get to pick which class you want to teach, which is either the black chocobos, the gold dinosaurs, or the blue dragons, or whatever they were. But the first thing all the teachers tell you is just how different they are. Aren't all these characters so different? Aren't all the characters different? No, they're not. They're just a bunch of rich kids that all are vaguely similar. Yes, they have more backstory, but personality-wise, they're not significantly different. In fact, I took the Black Chocobo team just because there was a character who was sort of a commoner whose whole thing was she just hated rich people. And I was like, okay, I can get behind that. That's at least different, sure. But I'm thinking about going through a different playthrough next time. Not sure who I want to team up with just yet, but I've got some issues with Three Houses, but it is overall a very, very fun game. And I do like Fire Emblem, so that's a big plus. Okay, so our next game of choice, number 7, is a game I'm a little less positive about, in that I'm not particularly positive whatsoever. We've got Kirby Star Allies. This game makes me angry for so many reasons. First of all, even before I got this game, I ordered it on Amazon, and they said they shipped it, and they didn't, and they didn't, and they didn't, and it took like an extra month for me to get it. That was fantastic. They openly lied about shipping it to me, which was fantastic. I had to complain, and I actually did get a partial refund on this, which is good. But what really annoys me about this game is it reminds me a lot of the two best Kirby games of all time, Kirby Superstar and Kirby 64, in that you get teammates that you get to make and have them follow you and go on awesome adventures with, like in Kirby Superstar, and you can combine powers like in Kirby 64. Except it does both terribly. In Kirby Superstar, you could get teammates out of anyone, and that's still here, kind of, but they're necessary. It's not an optional thing anymore. And, you know, sometimes I just want to adventure alone. Whereas this time they just say, nope, you need like 4 people, because we made this game specifically with multiplayer in mind, which is something I hate. But the power combination things are very, very specific in Mario 64. In Kirby 64, you could combine any power with any other power, and you would always create something different. And it was awesome, because everything felt powerful, everything felt overpowered, and everything felt awesome. In this game, only certain abilities can be combined with other certain abilities, and they are tied to, like, the area you're in and specific obstacles you need to destroy. So it's not a matter of solving puzzles or, you know, having the proper combination or anything. It's just the game will hand it to you when you need it, and then you're stuck with it until the next one. Awesome. Also, level designs are boring, bland, and unchallenging. And while Kirby has never been the most super challenging series of all time, outside the original Kirby's Dream Land, this one, it was just rough to just sit down and play. Like, it was just so bloody boring. I do not like Kirby Star Allies. I think it is an objectively bad Kirby game, and it is a mark on an otherwise relatively fun series when they're not overly experimentative with what it's doing. Next we get another game that I'm probably going to get yelled at for disliking, but we have Breath of the Wild. Fun story with this game, I almost got it for free. When I got my Switch with my brother, who worked at a Toys R Us at the time, he kind of reserved one because they were still flying off the shelves. I got this and a bunch of other games, and he gave me a huge discount on it because he had his employee discount, and the guy who was ringing me up actually forgot to charge me for this one. It wasn't until we like looked at the receipt that we went back and we got it all sorted out, but I almost got this game for free. And that would have almost been worth it, but Breath of the Wild I don't care so much for. It's a giant open world experience that is absolutely gorgeous, but I hate everything else about it. Like, there's 4 dungeons in the game. They're not particularly long or challenging, and every piece of equipment in this game breaks. Like, even the Master Sword, it's like the magical Blade of Legend breaks very, very easily. Like, it's baffling. And yeah, you do get better stuff as you go, and you use better stuff, but it still breaks really, really too fast for my taste. That was my biggest issue. My other biggest issue is there's nothing in this huge open world. Yeah, there's like a bunch of like mini dungeons called shrines that give you individual challenges that give you like pieces of heart, or equivalents anyway. And yet they're very, very simple. And a lot of them just give it to you for free. I don't care for that whatsoever. I want challenge, I want adventure, I want my crap to stop breaking. I hate that so much. But other than that, you just have like these little Korok guys you can find through like mystical stuff, and they'll just give you a little seed and collect enough and you expand your inventory. But there's nothing of any significance in any of these shrines or anything. Like, this is a game that tries to get away from the whole Zelda. You got a thing in a dungeon, great, that's going to solve all your problems in that dungeon. Move on to the next dungeon, find your next thing. But in moving away from making it a very inventory-focused puzzle-solving adventure, it becomes more inventory required than ever because you have to manage all your constantly breaking shit. I cannot stand this game. And I play it because it's beautiful and it's lovely, but it is awful. And I really hope they fix it in the sequel, because I'll definitely play it, because I had fun with it, but man, I hate that game. Alright, next we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That is a great cover right there. I do quite like that cover. This is a Wii U game that has been ported and up-resed and stuff, and it added some DLC. And it's Mario Kart, which would be great. But it takes away the one thing I really, really liked about Mario Kart. Going back to the GameCube, my favorite Mario Kart of all time was Mario Kart Double Dash. It was a game where you were constantly going through races, unlocking new tracks, unlocking new cups, unlocking new characters, unlocking new cars. There was, every time you beat something and you thought you got to the end, it said, nope, you've got a whole bunch of more stuff to do to see everything, and it was awesome. However, because this is a deluxe version and a compilation and enhanced version of the Wii U version, I guess Nintendo thought, hey, people have already played through this, people have already bought it, let's just unlock everything from the start so people don't complain about having to unlock everything again. So in this game, all you can unlock are parts to a car, and that's it, and that's really underwhelming, which is why when I went through this game, I pretty much played every course once and I didn't pick it up again, because there was nothing left for me to do. I didn't like that too much. Also, while I think some of the roster choices are very interesting, like having Link and Isabelle and like Splatoon Inkling as playable characters, a lot of the roster is just stupidly like mismanaged space that could have been infinitely better characters. You've got like Baby Peach, Baby Rosalina, Rose Gold Peach, which Rose Gold is such an awful color to begin with, but they've just got so many. Oh, they've got the Koopalings, which each take up an individual slot, which means that like 1/10 of the entire roster is the same character. How boring is that? Like seriously, they could have done so much more. If they wanted to make this deluxe, they could have actually made this deluxe. But instead they just gave us Mario Kart 8 with an unlock key. That's pretty lame, I think. Alright, and we're back with the second half of my Switch collection. My cat has decided to join us, so I apologize if you hear any weird noises. But our next game is Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. This is a game I have played once. I love Monster Hunter, but I, again, have troubles going back to the Wii, where you get to a point where you definitely need help. But I knew my brother was actually going to get this, so we decided to get this together to play it together. Unfortunately, we played it once, and then he got like tied up playing a bunch of stuff with his friends, and then we never actually got to it again. And I didn't enjoy my time with this, honestly, because I had just played Monster Hunter World. And it's hard to go back from a giant open world area where you can just go anywhere and hunt the monster sort of naturally, back to very truncated little arenas that are blocked off by loading screens. And every time you get hit by the monster, you get knocked into a loading screen, and then you try and go to find it. and then you realize, oh, it left and it's somewhere else on the other side of the map, I have no idea where, and it's fully healed because it knocked me into a loading screen. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to go back to that, I'm afraid. But this does apparently feature my boy Legiacris, which is why I was actually very, very excited to play this. Never got a chance to really get past the first level, which sucks, but, you know, these things happen. Next we actually go to a game I haven't played at all. We have New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Now, I bought this because, first of all, I was very, very, very reminiscent of my time with New Super Mario Bros. U. But also, more importantly, they included little Toadette as a playable character. That was a huge deal to me because I quite like Toadette. If you haven't seen my Mario Maker videos, go see that. But Toadette's my girl, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna play as Toadette, it's gonna be awesome. She's gonna have that Princess Peach power-up, and then, like, a million years down the road, someone's clearly gonna hack this game, and it's gonna have Bowsette in it. I'm waiting for that too. But, you know, I was just sad when I heard that, yeah, you can play as Toadette, but she's invulnerable to any damage whatsoever. I don't like that. Like, if you're gonna have a beginner mode, why not just have it as a toggleable thing, apply to every single character? You know, I want to play Toadette, but I want to play Toadette like she's an actual character, not some completely, like, removed entity that is somehow invulnerable and impervious to all damage. I mean, that takes away all the challenge, but, you know, Toadette's my girl, I just want to play with her. Why is it so impossible for Nintendo to understand that people might actually just want to play as Toadette? I don't know, but originally you could play as two completely identical Toads, and that was okay, but Toadette, no. It's too rough for her, so we gotta make her invulnerable. But on the bright side, this also includes Super Luigi U, which was actually the reason why I bought this, because I didn't have that on the Wii U, and this gave me access to it, plus the original, plus Toadette, which unfortunately kind of sucks. Very, very upset about that, but that said, I have been wanting to play this, and at some point I will actually get to this. Maybe I'll stream it, who knows, but look forward to that. Next we have Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I have played through about half this game, but I just can't stand how ungodly easy it is. They took away Eevee's ability to evolve, which was, you know, as the evolution monster, kind of a big deal. And to compensate that, it just gives you, like, unlimited ultimate abilities for every element it could evolve into, so you could have a completely rainbow moveset Eevee if you wanted. And indeed, from what I played, that's what I did. And you could steamroll the entire game as Eevee. So, yeah. I love Eevee, though. Eevee's awesome. I mean, I think Eevee sucks, but Umbreon and Jolteon are pretty cool. And not having them is kind of sad, but I do appreciate running into monsters on the field without having to just randomly be told, oh, you ran into a monster, so that's nice. I'm not so much a fan of the whole throwing Pokeballs, because Pokemon Go was a thing. And this is a weird game in that it sits both as kind of like a remake of the original game and a completely different thing. Like, it's allegedly a remake of the original games because it totally takes place in the exact same areas and you retread all the areas you went to in the first game. But then you run into the characters from the first game, which makes it a little peculiar, to say the least. But it's a weird game, but it's not bad, it's just not great. Alright, next we go to another game I got at launch, Splatoon 2. I actually got this game to play with someone on the Discord because they were sort of raving about it literally the day before I got it. And never played with them, unfortunately. I played through the story in 2 settings, and honestly, I found the story to be really, really boring. All the worlds feel kind of interchangeable, and all the events are basically just get to the end of this area and collect a thing. And that was kind of it. There's 1 or 2 areas that were repurposed multiplayer maps that were supposed to be sort of challenged on your own, but other than that, there wasn't a lot to it. That said, I did find the final boss and the soundtrack to be pretty awesome. And while I'm not a multiplayer person, I did actually sink a fair amount of time into that. That was actually not too bad. I just wish they did more with this, I guess, because I never played the original Splatoon and I heard so many good things about it, and this just felt a little one note. Like, again, all the levels felt kind of basically the same, and honestly, maybe it was because I went through the game in 2 sittings, several months apart, honestly, and I felt the levels were bland. I don't know, Splatoon 2 might just not have been my jam, but I had some fun online, and I might go back and try that again at some point. Alright, next we have, oh god, this thing. Starlink, Battle for Atlas. It came with a R-Wing toy, which I have hanging up on my wall, actually. This was a game that I saw literally the day before it launched on an ad when I was doing some extra work at someone's house, and they paid me a little bit overly generously, and I realized, oh, I could buy this and pay off some bills. So I decided to grab this, and this was my only Toys to Life sort of game ever, if we don't count the amiibos, which I don't really take part in too much. And it had so much promise. The idea is you make your own custom, like, spaceship, and you can put it into the game, and the way you actually physically configure your spaceship is different. Like, I took my R-Wing, I flipped the wings backwards, and it actually shows up on screen like that, and you can shoot backwards because it has, like, blasters built in. This particular version actually acts almost like an extension of the Star Fox mythos, because this version, of course, includes them, which is in and of itself very, very cool. Unfortunately, it's not so much about flying around space and shooting things, as it is turning your spaceship into a tank and hovering around on the planet and occasionally just collecting crap. And that's really, really boring. And that makes me really, really sad. This felt like a very one-note game that could have been a lot better. I think I played this for 2 decent-sized sessions, like maybe 6 hours each. And after that, I just never picked it up again because it just felt, yeah, like, it was initially kind of fun, and then it just started piling on the fact that all the planets felt the same, all the quests felt the same, and there wasn't a lot of actual space shipping around in this spaceship game. There's a lot of being a tank, which I felt to be kind of antithetical, seeing as, you know, the whole thing about flying in a spaceship is not being stuck on the ground, but this game kind of disagrees. It was also weird because buying the digital version actually gave you more stuff at less cost than buying the physical edition that gave you the actual stuff you're supposed to buy. So it was like they were getting, like people like me who actually bought the physical edition actually were getting punished for buying this. It was well and truly bizarre. I'm not gonna say this is a great game, but it's a game that exists for sure. Alright, next we have a game that if I show, I'm sure I'm going to get sued because thanks Konami, but I showed gameplay to this once and I got a copyright. That was fun to get hit by, but we have Super Bomberman R. This actually goes back to the classic Super Bomberman style, as it says in the title, and I find that to be incredibly boring, honestly. This game I found to be pretty underwhelming, but I'm also not so much an arcade Bomberman guy as I am the more N64 style adventure Bomberman. That's totally my jam. This game apparently has since had several characters added to the mythos, including a bunch of characters from Konami, such as like Pyramid Head and Jehuti and like Solid Snake and all these weird characters. I don't know how I feel about that, but apparently the Switch version added Max from the Bomberman mythos, so that's kind of cool. But honestly, I don't like seeing Bomberman with the Konami logo. This is supposed to be a Hudson property, and the fact that Hudson no longer exists and is controlled by Konami alone just makes me depressed. And this game was really, it felt like a game that existed as a bare minimum, how little effort can we put in for the, as we have on a big sticker on the cover, 33rd anniversary. We're gonna make a very, very bland, very boring, very safe game that has nothing special about it. Awesome. Alright, and we're going to continue with the negativity train with Super Mario Odyssey. This is kind of like Breath of the Wild in the sense that I know everyone loves this game, and I don't get it. I actually have a review on this, but I recorded it at the end of last year, and that was when my Joy-Cons broke, and I had to send them in to get fixed because Nintendo's Joy-Cons are crap. But I do not have that review done. I have the audio for it. I might edit it together and just put random gameplay in without editing it, just to save me some time, but I don't like this game at all. Like, this game tries to be like the next big Mario 3D adventure, and it kind of is, but it flubs it really, really hard. Again, I'm not sure if I'll put this review out or anything, but I remember saying, and it's very true, I got to the very last sequence in the game, and I was thinking, yeah, this is awesome, this is exactly the adventure I wanted. And I had to stop just as I was saying that, and I had to ask myself, why did it take to literally the final scene of the game to actually get me to actually get enjoyment out of this? Like, where was the rest of this awesome adventure? Instead, you're walking around doing really ridiculously, stupidly easy things to gain a stupid number of collectibles, or getting sidetracked to these little small areas in between larger areas to pad time. And once you're done the main story, you can collect up to like 999 collectibles, and most of them you get through paying money. And I said this in my review as well, by adding like actual monetary value to your main collectibles, you've made them effectively worthless because you can get as many as you want with very little effort. I found a way to get like 100 coins, which is the total amount for one of these collectibles, in less than a minute. So you could just power grind that stupidly easy to get however many collectibles you want. And ironically, that's probably more enjoyable than the actual challenges they make you try and go through to get them. Like, even once you beat the game and you unlock a bunch of bonus worlds, you'll still get missions which give you, like, your main collectible by, you know, collecting 5 things in a world that are just hanging around, or just seeing them float out in the open, or ground pounding a glowy spot. Very, very obvious tutorial level basic things that should teach you how to use your controls. And this is like post-game hard mode stuff. The only thing about this game I found particularly interesting was at one point, they completely dropped this game's tone, and instead of Bowser being the final boss, for some reason you fight a Rathalos from Monster Hunter. And then it goes back to being Goofy Mario Fun Time. Like that, it just had a complete 180 in tone and then dropped it. And honestly, like I said in the review, like, if you look at some like Nintendo's online ads, they make Bowser seem like this nice, friendly father figure that you just want to hang out with. He seems like a nice guy. Especially when you consider every other week he's go-karting or playing board games with Mario. He is not a credible threat to Mario. And yet they always make him out to be this, like, giant evil villain guy who he clearly isn't. His entire purpose in this game is to propose to Princess Peach. He's actually turning legit good. Kinda. Baby steps. And yet, they have the guts to bring out like this completely dark entity that could actually be like an actual credible villain, and then they just sideline that out of nowhere. Seriously, I could just go on forever about this game being too easy and dumb and not having any real remarkable moments up to the end. Seriously, I've got a review that I might put out about that if I can ever be asked to actually edit it together. But Super Mario Odyssey, I don't get why people like this game, honestly. It's so ridiculously easy, and it's underwhelming in all respects. Like, I just don't get it, but some people like that game, I guess. Alright, next we have Umehara Kawase Fresh. This is the latest Umehara Kawase game. Apparently there's another one coming out on the Switch soon, which is pretty exciting. If you're not familiar with this game, it is a large series in Japan. It started back on the Super Famicom. I'm still trying to get that, because it's rare and expensive, but it's about a girl with a rubber fishing rod who has to use it to grapple hook around, and she has to fight a bunch of evil seafood and stuff. Well, now they've added cooking to that whole mix of oddities, but it's an interesting idea, and this was my first Umehara Kawase game. I had a ton of fun with this game, and I can't wait to actually play some more, because it's a very mechanically peculiar game. Like, you grapple hook something to a wall, and then you have to, like, you don't necessarily like grapple or like wind yourself in so much as you just control tension, and then you slingshot yourself places. It takes a lot of getting used to, and I'm probably not going to be any good in the gameplay. But that said, Umehara Kawase Fresh is an interesting game based on a very fun series that I'm quite passionate about, even though I only own 2 games in it. And this is a great game if you can find it cheap, because it is an absolute barrel of fun. Alright, next we go to something I'm a little less positive about. The World Ends With You Final Remix. This is a port of an iPhone port of one of my favorite games of all time. This game is very emotionally important to me, and I could talk forever about that, but what this game does, it doesn't do well. It remixes all the songs, some of which are okay, some of which are not. It changes some of the gameplay up because, of course, the original was on the DS that required both the buttons and stylus input. This clearly can't do that. And it's just janky and weird, but that said, this version also has like extra content no other version has to make it a more complete story. So it's sort of like the must-have version, even though it's basically completely incomprehensible versus the DS version, which is one of the best games I've ever played. I don't know how to feel about this game. I haven't played it since I recorded it, and I'm honestly a little bit terrified too. Again, just to have to face what was one of my favorite games turned into this. But next time. Alright, we got one more to go. And if you know me, you probably know what this is already going to be, but waboom! We've got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in its big hollow ass box. This is another Xenoblade game. It's not really connected to any of the other ones. I'm afraid to lay it down because it might knock everything over. But it's got the same giant open worlds as all the others, and it has a really fun summon system. You play this guy Rex, and his whole deal is he can summon all these like spirit character thingies. It's been a while since I played this, but you can level them up and you can go on grand adventures, and I just love getting completely lost in the worlds. And this game has a huge world in it, tons of events, tons of quests. I can't wait to get back into this just to record this. It even got a full, basically expanded, standalone type of sequel, expansion pack type of thing. I don't have that. I want to get that though, someday. But I love Xenoblade, and this is more Xenoblade, and honestly, out of the three, I think this one might be the weakest. But that said, I like the second one more because mechs, and I like the first one more because story. But Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a very special game in my collection, and I'm quite glad I have it. And that is the last game in my entire Switch/Wii U library. There are certainly a few I'd like to get, but if you know some that you think I should get, let me know, because I'm always interested in trying to find more awesome games I don't know about. But otherwise, I guess that's it for Wii U and Switch stuff. Next time we'll be taking a look at GameCube games, so look forward to that. And if you want to see more, subscribe to the show, because I've got a metric crap ton of these videos coming, as well as having 3 done already. I've also got reviews that I do basically weekly, as well as daily streams and stuff. You should also check out my Twitch channel for that. Got pirate game videos going up, which is pretty impressive. I've got gameplay videos, tons of other stuff as well, so look forward to all that. Again, got a stream you should go follow as well. And if you really want to make my day, check out the show's PayPal or Patreon. Support the show any way you can so that I can afford to pay for more awesome games like Xenoblade here, as well as pay for rent and food, because that's a big deal. And let me know in the comments what your collections for the Wii U and Switch are, because I'm definitely interested in what I don't have, which is a lot of stuff. And you know, if you want to make game donations to the show to help expand the library, that's always very, very appreciated as well. And just let me know what you think about my collection and what you've got that you think is great, what maybe isn't so great, and what you think I should look into. Because that's what the comment section is for, and I'm definitely interested in all the unknowns across all the consoles, because I like to think I'm up on this stuff, but there's always stuff you can miss out on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my collection of Wii U and Switch games, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, Internet.